Once again, dudes, this is Emil from the Code Conspiracy, and in this XHTML tutorial, we're gonna be covering a lot of stuff. We're gonna be covering Textareas, iFrames. We're gonna be covering covering some basic buttons, some input. We're gonna be covering some comments and that kind of stuff. And then I plan on moving further with some other advanced stuff. For documenting, of course, cause that's what we're in right now. So the first thing I want to show you is how to do a comment in XHTML. This is basically how you do it. There is one thing I want you to remember. The comments are whenever you type in comments and say hello world in here, right? And we try to save it and then launch it in an Internet Explorer. Oh, got a message. You can see you can't see it. Cause comments, as in any other language, I don't know if you programmed before. They don't show up in your website. So the comments are they're not showed up. That's a good thing. Cause if you're using JavaScript and some browsers don't support it, not to make bugs, you can use it in a comment. Then it will see itself that it understands JavaScript. Oh man, I'm getting messages here. So let's get started by making a form. Now, if you don't know what a form is basically a little form of you make some. How can I explain this? It's a input. Yeah, you do some input and some text. You make like little programming inside your form. I actually think you can use a lot of things inside your form, but we're gonna do some basic. Go ahead and type in name and then input type equals to text. Right. Now what this means is that you're making a name. That's the title that shows up, right? And then you make an input, which is a little text bar where you can type in. And the type is going to be text. It's not going to be anything else. If you typed in file, you could do something else in it. Man, typing to me. So now we're gonna do our textarea. Now for those of you who don't know what a textarea is that it's a little like square where you can type in basically. So we're gonna do something. We're gonna add something called rows, and we're gonna add something called calls. Now rows I'm gonna set equals to 7, and the calls I'm gonna set equal to 50. The reason I'm doing this is because it's necessary if you want the right size of it. Otherwise, it would be very smaller. And of course, you need to give it kind of like an ID. Actually, just gonna call this other. So an ID is if you use it in other thing. And then we're gonna use something called an access key. An access key kind of means what key you need to have to access this. It's kind of hard to explain. But we're gonna be an access key in this example is the way your internet browser access your input. Pretty good explanation. But it can be used for other things as well, so it's not the only way to explain the access key. But whatever we type in here in between the end tag is going to be what shows up. So I'm gonna type in a little bit about yourself, right? So whenever we go ahead and end this with a text ending tag, right? All right. So this is a text ending tag. So if we go ahead and run this now and launch an Internet Explorer, here what we get. You can see you type in your name, my name, and then I'm typing a little bit about myself. I love programming, right? So this is input, and this is a text area. So if we did go ahead and make a little break between, it would probably look way better. Launch it again. Yeah, so there we go. There's another thing. You can use something called input type. Input again, as I said here. There is a different type. But whenever you're doing it, it takes the language of your browser. Now you might be knowing this. I'm from Denmark, so if I make input type, so as I told you, input is like a little box, and if I set that equal to button or submit, then it, kind of like the name says, if we go ahead and save this, this might be in Danish, but we got something. We can change that later on. Here you can see here it says send, basically. So whenever you click that, it sends it, but there's nothing to send it to. You will need to use languages like PHP or JavaScript to do that. But now you can see you also have added a button. Basically, make a little break again. So this is how you can work with Textareas and not grow. You can see. But I want to change the name of that. I'm not gonna be showing how to do that in this tutorial, though I feel like it. And that's gonna be in the next one. Yeah, I just decided. So we're gonna be working more with this in the next tutorial. But here there's something else I want to show you. You can also do. Let's make another body. You can do something called an iframe. You've probably seen this when we put it in a YouTube video. An iframe is basically stands for inline frame. It's like a little box with text inside. On this, of course, you go ahead and use CSS and stuff like that to change it. And we're actually gonna be using a little bit of CSS to make this function well. So I'm gonna type in scrolling. Scrolling is just a function you use here. It means if you can scroll it down and stuff, and I'm gonna say no, so it will just keep in a box basically. I'm gonna say frame border equals to, and then a no in here, style, and here comes a lot of CSS, which I actually don't want to talk about. I just need it for it to look properly. So as stands now, you can just copy this. I will make another tutorial for CSS, cause I think you should understand it, but this is not a CSS tutorial, you know. So I'm gonna type in here border. Oh man, border. Come on. Ah, thank you. Border width. What all this means, of course you don't know it, and I don't blame you for that, to be honest. No one ever said you should know what this means, and I haven't told you about it anyways. So I'm not blaming you for not knowing what all this shit is basically. But you will find out in time. You'll find out in time. Alright. So this is getting a little bit confusing, I know, but believe me, it is going to be great. So actually I wanna go ahead here. Yeah, now it works. This is how it should look. Alright. So this is a little piece of CSS that also gave you an idea, basically how it could look. So the source, usually you need a source. We don't have run right now. So if I say this and go ahead and delete this actually, and see how this looks, and you'll see. As you can see here, we have a little frame, inner frame, as I told you before. It's a little box, as I said. We built it with CSS, but if there weren't that in iFrame function, we weren't able to build it. So if we go ahead here and make it end iframe tag here, and type something in between these, like hello world, and save this and run it in Internet Explorer, you can see it doesn't show up. This is because, as I said, you usually need to have a source for text to show up in it, and I'm gonna be showing that in a later tutorial. But for now, I've learned you a lot, I think. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.